My face was plastered across dating apps I'd never used, with a stranger claiming to be me. When she ensnared one of America's wealthiest bachelors using my photos, I thought it was over. I never imagined he'd launch a global search to find the real woman behind the pictures. I was scrolling through Instagram when my phone lit up with a message that would change everything. "Is this you?" My friend had sent a screenshot of a dating profile, my face smiling back at me, but under a name I'd never heard before. My stomach dropped as I stared at my own photos, attached to a stranger's biography. In that moment, I couldn't possibly have known that this discovery would lead me into the most surreal chapter of my life, one involving a billionaire, an elaborate deception, and a love story that wasn't mine to live. Before all this madness, I was just Amara Johnson, a 28-year-old graphic designer living in Atlanta. My life was wonderfully ordinary. I had a small but cozy apartment downtown, a job I genuinely enjoyed at a marketing agency, and weekends filled with brunches, occasional dates, and painting classes. I'd post about these simple joys on my social media, never thinking twice about who might be watching. Why would I? I wasn't famous or wealthy. I was just living my life, documenting small moments that made me happy. Those innocent posts, my graduation photos, vacation snapshots in Jamaica, even a picture of me laughing at my cousin's wedding, would become the building blocks of someone else's completely fabricated existence. When I discovered those first fake profiles, I felt violated in a way that's hard to describe. It was as if someone had broken into my home and was walking around in my clothes, pretending to be me. I immediately reported the profiles, of course, but they would disappear only to reappear under different names. What I didn't know then was that someone wasn't just stealing my photos, they were stealing my entire identity, crafting an elaborate persona that would catch the eye of one of the most eligible bachelors in America. And they were just getting started. If you've ever worried about your online identity being stolen, you need to hear this unbelievable story. Hit like and subscribe now, because this roller coaster has twists you won't see coming. What happened next wasn't just identity theft. It became a high-stakes game of deception that would eventually involve private investigators, international travel, and a race against time to stop a marriage built entirely on lies. I spent days reporting and trying to take down the fake profiles, but it felt like a game of digital whack-a-mole. Every time one disappeared, two more would pop up. "It's just some creep using your photos," my friends would say. It happens to everyone these days. But this wasn't just about stolen photos. This person was interacting with others as me, sharing opinions I'd never expressed, creating an entire parallel life with my face attached to it. Then came a Tuesday morning in April when my coworker burst into our office break room with her phone thrust forward. "Amara, why didn't you tell us you were dating Maxwell Reed?" The name meant nothing to me, but the excitement in her voice made my heart race. Maxwell Reed, the reclusive tech billionaire whose breakthrough AI company had made headlines for years. There on the screen of a major news site was my face, smiling next to a handsome man I'd never met, announcing our whirlwind romance. My world tilted on its axis. This wasn't just some random catfish anymore. This was identity theft on a scale I couldn't comprehend. The article detailed our chance meeting at a charity gala in New York, a city I'd visited exactly once in my life, our shared passion for marine conservation, I'm terrified of deep water, and how I'd captivated the notoriously private billionaire with my authentic charm. I remember sinking into a chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. How had this happened? How had someone using stolen photos from my modest social media accounts managed to get close enough to one of America's wealthiest men that they were now making public appearances together? The room spun around me as I realized that somewhere out there, a complete stranger was living a life as me, a better, more glamorous version of me, and I had no idea how to stop her. The next few weeks passed in a blur of panic attacks and sleepless nights. The story of Amara Johnson and Maxwell Reed was everywhere. People magazine called them the tech world's most intriguing couple. Forbes featured them attending exclusive galas. There were paparazzi photos of them boarding private jets to destinations I'd only dreamed of visiting. Each new headline felt like another nail in the coffin of my own identity. I watched in horror as this woman, whoever she was, perfected her performance as me. She'd somehow studied enough of my online presence to mimic my smile, my style of dress, even the way I tilted my head in photos. The resemblance was uncanny, not just in looks, but in the carefully crafted personality she presented to the world. She'd become a high society version of Amara Johnson, while the real me sat in my apartment, drinking too much coffee and frantically emailing every news outlet that had covered their relationship. Then came the engagement announcement. 6 months after their chance meeting, Maxwell Reed had proposed, with a ring worth more than my apartment building. The headlines gushed about their fairy tale romance. Entertainment Tonight called it the culmination of a whirlwind courtship that had captivated the nation. I watched the interview where she accepted his proposal, wearing my face, but speaking with confidence I'd never possessed, about their plans for a destination wedding in the Maldives. I remember throwing my phone across the room, screaming into a pillow until my throat was raw. How was this possible? How had no one, not his security team, not the press, not a single person in his elite circle, realized she wasn't who she claimed to be? I felt like I was losing my mind, watching someone else live a dream life with my identity while I was powerless to stop it. And worst of all, an innocent man was being deceived, preparing to marry someone whose entire existence was fabricated from pieces of my stolen life. The day after the engagement announcement, I walked into a police station, clutching a folder of evidence, screenshots, dates, my passport, everything that proved I was the real Amara Johnson. The officer looked at me with thinly veiled skepticism as I explained that someone had stolen my identity to become engaged to one of America's richest men. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "do you realize how this sounds?" I did. It sounded insane, but it was happening. My desperate emails to Maxwell Reed's company bounced back or disappeared into customer service black holes. I tried reaching out through social media, only to be blocked by his PR team, who labeled me a disturbed fan. I even hired a lawyer with money I couldn't afford to spend, who sent formal letters that were met with cease and desist threats from Reed's legal team. They were convinced I was trying to extort money or fame from the couple's happiness. In a moment of desperation, I created a video detailing everything, showing my ID, my birth certificate, photos from my childhood, proof that I was the woman whose face was plastered across those engagement announcements. I posted it everywhere, tagging news outlets and Maxwell Reed himself. It gained some traction, a few thousand views, some sympathetic comments. But then something chilling happened. Accounts claiming to be friends of the real Amara began appearing, painting me as a troubled look-alike with a history of obsessive behavior. My social media accounts were suddenly flooded with hateful messages. My workplace received calls demanding I be fired for harassing the happy couple. The narrative had been completely flipped. Now I was the imposter, the stalker, the threat. My own mother called, confused by articles suggesting I needed psychological help. The wedding date was approaching, and I was running out of options. I began to wonder if I was truly losing my mind. How could the truth be so easily buried under an avalanche of wealth, power, and carefully constructed lies? I was at my lowest point, having just been served with a restraining order from a man I'd never met, when a single email changed everything. The subject line was simple: "I think we need to talk, Mr." My hands shook as I opened it. The message was brief, but it ignited a spark of hope I'd thought long extinguished. "Some things aren't adding up. I need to verify certain facts. Can you answer questions only the real Amara would know?" What I didn't realize then was that Maxwell had begun noticing discrepancies. My imposter had crafted a careful persona based on my public photos and posts, But she couldn't know everything. She'd claimed to be allergic to shellfish. Then Maxwell caught her enjoying lobster when she thought he wasn't looking. She'd mentioned growing up with 3 brothers. I'm an only child. She'd faltered when discussing the Atlanta neighborhood where I actually grew up. Small inconsistencies that, individually, meant little, but together formed a pattern that had made this brilliant, analytical man suspicious. I responded to his email immediately, offering to answer anything he wanted to know. His questions were surprisingly specific. What was the name of the black cat in my graduation photos? Salem. What was written on the coffee mug I held in a beach photo from 3 years ago? Our correspondence continued for days, each exchange revealing more about the elaborate fraud being perpetrated against both of us. Maxwell explained that he'd hired private investigators after finding my viral video, not to silence me, but to determine if my claims might actually be true. The woman he knew as Amara had dismissed my video as the work of a disturbed fan with mental health issues. But something about my desperation had struck him as authentic. The eyes, he wrote in one email. In your video, they were filled with genuine pain. That can't be faked. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to believe that the truth might actually prevail. Maxwell's private investigation into my imposter became the most extensive identity verification effort I'd ever heard of. Within days, a team of elite cybersecurity specialists was tracking every digital footprint both of us had ever left. They mapped IP addresses, analyzed speech patterns and videos, and even employed facial recognition technology to compare minute details between my social media photos and recent appearances of the fake Amara. The investigation revealed something shocking. The woman wasn't just using my photos, she had undergone subtle cosmetic procedures to more closely resemble me. Maxwell's team discovered her real identity. Vanessa Parker, a struggling actress from Philadelphia with a history of small-time scams. She had meticulously studied me for over a year before making her move, choosing me specifically because of our similar features and because my modest online presence made me the perfect target. The confrontation happened at what was supposed to be their final wedding dress fitting. Maxwell arrived with his security team and digital evidence proving she wasn't who she claimed to be. I wasn't there, but he later described to me how her facade crumbled when cornered with irrefutable proof. She'd tried to maintain the lie, then attempted to flee, and finally broke down in tears, confessing everything when she realized escape was impossible. Meanwhile, as this drama unfolded in New York, I received a knock on my apartment door. A woman in a crisp suit introduced herself as the head of Maxwell's personal security team. Mr. Reed would like to meet you, she said, simply. The real you. Within hours, I was on a private jet headed for Manhattan, my mind reeling with disbelief. The nightmare was ending, but I had no idea what awaited me in its place. Would he blame me somehow for this deception? Was I flying across the country only to face more accusations? The uncertainty was terrifying, but for the first time in months, I felt something else too: vindication. The truth was finally emerging, and someone had cared enough to find it. The first time I met Maxwell Reed in person was nothing like I'd imagined. We met in a private suite at the Plaza Hotel, not in his office as I'd expected. He stood as I entered, tall, with kind eyes that held a weariness I hadn't seen in any of his photos. The real Amara Johnson, he said simply, extending his hand. His voice carried equal measures of relief and embarrassment. For hours, we talked. He apologized repeatedly for not discovering the truth sooner, for the restraining order, for everything I'd endured. I learned that Vanessa had been arrested on multiple felony charges: identity theft, fraud, attempted extortion. She'd planned to divorce Maxwell after a year of marriage, walking away with millions. What she hadn't counted on was falling for him genuinely during her deception, a complication that had made her increasingly desperate to maintain the lie. The media eruption was immediate and overwhelming. Headlines screamed about the billionaire's bride hoax, and The Woman with the Stolen Face. Maxwell's PR team worked tirelessly to control the narrative, emphasizing that he had been the one to uncover the truth. For weeks, I received interview requests offering substantial sums, but I declined them all. This chapter of my life had already been too public, too exposed. Maxwell insisted on compensation for what I'd endured, not just financial support, but also top-tier identity protection services and a team of reputation management specialists to restore my online presence. We kept in contact through this process, our conversations evolving from discussion of the case to genuine friendship. Neither of us expected the connection that grew from such bizarre circumstances. 6 months after our first meeting, Maxwell asked if he could take me to dinner, not as the woman whose identity was stolen, he clarified, but as Amara Johnson, the graphic designer from Atlanta who loves spicy food and hates scary movies. I said yes, surprising myself. Our relationship developed slowly, cautiously, built on a foundation of painful honesty and hard-won trust. We'd both learned the hard way about the importance of authenticity. Today, 2 years later, we're engaged, for real this time, with a relationship that began in truth rather than deception. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder if any of this was real. How did a normal woman from Atlanta end up engaged to one of the wealthiest men in America because someone stole her identity? The universe works in mysterious ways. What began as the most violating experience of my life somehow led me to genuine happiness, not because of the money or the lifestyle, though I won't pretend having a private chef isn't amazing, but because adversity revealed to both Maxwell and me what truly matters: authenticity. The legal battle with Vanessa concluded with her serving time for multiple felonies. I chose not to pursue additional civil damages after she issued a public apology. Some might call me too forgiving, but carrying that anger would only have prevented me from moving forward. In an unexpected twist, her story has become a cautionary tale used in cybersecurity training programs across the country. This experience fundamentally changed how I view digital privacy. Maxwell and I now work with several organizations focused on protecting online identities and preventing similar scams. We've helped pass legislation strengthening penalties for identity theft and providing resources for victims. Something positive had to come from all this chaos. My life now is nothing like I ever imagined it would be. Some days, I still wake up startled, wondering how this became my reality. But then I remember that beneath the headlines and the wealth, my relationship with Maxwell is built on something rare, a connection forged through fire, tested by deception, and ultimately strengthened by our shared experience of searching for truth. This story could happen to anyone. Protect yourself by following the link in the description for identity protection tips. If this story shocked you as much as it shocked me living through it, smash that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable true stories that will make you question everything. Remember, sometimes what seems like the worst thing that could happen to you might just be the universe's most unexpected blessing in disguise.